Until you change the way you speak about yourself, you will not think otherwise. Until you learn to be sympathetic and empathetic towards yourself, you will be rude and nasty to yourself and others. Welcome or welcome back at your favorite mental health specialist, High Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then that means it's not in line, which means it is not for you. So don't force it, as well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. For today's video, we're going to go over and discuss why it's so important to be nice to yourself and to be patient to yourself, but most importantly, to show yourself compassion, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, some disclaimers, and just certain things that you should be aware of. So starting off, the first disclaimer: learning to speak gentler to yourself will allow you to stop being so mean to yourself. A lot of times you're so quick to be mean to yourself when the world has already been mean to you. You're so quick to beat yourself up when you've been beaten up literally by the world, by God, the ancestors, or the universe. For those of you who resonate, take what resonates, leave the rest, as well as others. So it's just like, if life is gonna life, if you've been beaten up by the world, you've been beaten up in real life, why not would you learn to be gentle to yourself and allow yourself to recover and allow yourself the grace? Like, it's already bad enough that you may have to struggle and suffer and it's out of your control. It's already bad enough that you had to grow up in poverty and deal with mental abuse or physical abuse, or just have insecurities and doubts that were projected and deflected onto you instead of you having ideas for yourself. So it's just like learning to realize that if it's out of your control, how you choose to speak to yourself will help you realize how much energy you're able to put into the things that are out of your control and how much energy you're able to put into yourself. So basically, if it's nothing that you can do immediately, or if it's at the expense of other people, you not having to be so reactive or so defensive will help you continue be the person you want to be and continue to heal yourself. Like, always feeling the need to be aggressive and assertive is on you. And I know a lot of times people provoke you and people harass you. This doesn't take away the fact that these people are weird and problematic and degrading and demeaning. But I'm telling you from experience, what has helped me along my healing journey was to control how I spoke to myself. And it is that deep. The reason why we're so aggressive and we're so nasty just in general is because we're not nice to ourselves. Like, you cannot cuss somebody out if that's not in you. You can't speak negatively about yourself or other people if that's not who you are. So the second disclaimer is knowing that it is common for you to have negative thoughts. It is not normal to have anger issues. It's not normal to want to hurt and harm everybody. It's not normal to want to harm yourself. It is common for you to go through emotions because you have feelings and your feelings are valid, but it's not normal for you to self-sabotage. It's not normal for you to be depressed and anxious 24/7 every single day. Yes, you're going to go through things in life. Yes, things are going to happen to us, but it's like we have to learn how to regulate our emotions and learn how to support ourselves, so therefore our problems don't last longer than what they need to be. So the third disclaimer is knowing that when you're learning to speak gentler to yourself, you're going to have to practice. Everybody's like, oh, it's cliche. I can't stand when people say things are cliche, because it's not. It's the reality. Like, that's like people be like, oh, everything's not a conspiracy theory. Everything has a reason. Now, you may not be educated and equipped and aware to know, but there is. And this is why it's so important that you practice. Now, of course, take what resonates, leave the rest. If it doesn't apply, then it's not in line, which means let it fly. It's not for you. But if it's like, if something is for you, it's for you. You're going to have to learn how to stop being hard to yourself. You're going to have to learn how to be gracious. You're going to have to learn how to speak positively, like I said. So therefore, when you're dealing with adversity, whether it's from people, places, and things, you don't lose yourself. Because the moment you lose your train of thought, like the moment you stop being supportive and genuine and keeping your energy still, because that's what we promote over here, is positivity, wholeness, and just abundance, that's when you start to spiral. That's when things start to get conflicted. That's when things start to get confusing, and that's when things start to become low vibrational, and that's when you start to get aggressive and assertive. And I know, because I'm speaking from experience. So lastly, before we get into the recommendations on how we're going to work on that, is knowing that you have to make sure that you're continuing to surround yourself with people who speak the same way. Now, I know a lot of people's feathers are going to be ruffled, but there are certain things that should be non-negotiables. And it's not because you have to be superior. It's not about being right. It has nothing to do with ego, but a place of respect. When you respect yourself and you're nice to yourself and you're kind to yourself, you don't tolerate certain things. So what I've realized with me personally from my past and experiences, if I'm in a relationship with someone, I have to value them, number one, other than myself. But I've learned with past experiences how I talk to people and how people talk to me is important. But in order for me to continue to be mindful of how I talk to other people, I've had to learn to be mindful to myself. Because like I said, a lot of times how we talk to other people is how we talk to ourselves. And I can raise my hand and I can acknowledge that. In my past, there were moments where I used to talk to people. And the things that I've said, I've had to apologize. I've had to change my ways. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna own up to it. A lot of times I've learned that I wasn't sorry about what I said, but how I went about it, my delivery. And that's okay, I'm human. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've never said certain things or done some things, because I have. Like, who hasn't? And if you have, continue to stay in that energy, because that's what people want. And as somebody who has done the work and improved and realized when you talk to yourself respectfully, everything else will follow, you should want that in return. Like, some people are like, oh, well, that's just how they are. That's just how we talk to each other. No. If I talk to myself respectfully, if I'm patient with myself, I'm kind of myself, why would I tolerate anything else? Because it's the same thing. How you have a relationship with yourself is how you're going to have a relationship with every area of your life. How you show up in life, just in general. So when it comes to the recommendations of you learning to be nicer to yourself, you need to realize why you're being mean to yourself. So in your notes, in the comment section, I want you to acknowledge, because you know why. You know why. Why were you being mean to yourself? Why were you being aggressive? Why are you so quick? And I'll give you an example. Me personally, I've had to learn how to regulate my emotions with not a lot of examples. So the examples that were given to me were what I had. So because I had what I had, and at the time I thought it wasn't enough, or I thought it was lack, I had a lack mindset, I had a lack mentality, I found it to be very frustrating at times to express myself in certain ways, because I felt like I didn't have enough guidance or enough help and support. But just because I didn't have certain help or certain support didn't make it acceptable. I've had to, like I said, learn from like people in real life. Because it's like, if you care about people, you care about yourself, you care about how you impact them. Now, I'm not somebody who's selfish. Now, if you're selfish, you and I are not, this is not for you. Like, we don't go together. But send a share in this video to somebody who is. And there's nothing wrong with you not being selfish, but it's just like, if you care about people, you should care about yourself. So it's just like, you need to figure out why you feel negatively. Why is it so hard for you to be nice? Why is it so hard for you to be there for you? Because like I said, it ties into it. Like me having, like this was when I was little, but like when I was younger, like I said, me having like the temper tantrums that I had, the attitude that I had, is simply because, like I said, not having at the time like a lot of guidance and a lot of resource. And the guidance that I did have, it was helpful, but it was just like, you still have to do this like religiously. Like, you still have to do this like consistently. Like, every day you should want to be improving yourself. And that's going to be the second recommendation. Once you are able to discern like why you find it so difficult and challenging, you need to figure out, okay, what you're able to do to come up with a solution about it. Because it's like, once you know like where your issues stem from, you know what you can do moving forward. And of course, while you're coming up with your solution, you're going to allow yourself to feel how you feel. So if you have like anger issues because you didn't have, let's just say, people, parents, guidance to be there for you, your feelings are valid. But like I said, learning to be angry with the world and just being mean to yourself or being hard to yourself isn't going to help you. Once you realize that maybe you have anger issues because people were used to yelling at you and being aggressive towards you, you separating yourself will help you not feel the need to be so impulsive and react and respond. Maybe you talk negatively to yourself because other people around you were insecure. Like, I know personally, like growing up, I grew up around most people that I knew, majority of them were extremely insecure. So that wasn't my reason. That could be your reason. And it's not to shame anybody's reason, because at the end of the day, we want to improve ourselves, and it's nothing to be embarrassed of. But like, I know a lot of people talk negatively about themselves because they're insecure. Like, a lot of people I've met, I've realized it was never about me necessarily, and it's sometimes never about you. It's just simply because how they treat themselves. Like, anybody who knew me and I had to go off on them, they knew like my attitude, it was something I wasn't very like excited for of. And this doesn't mean that my anger and our pain, and that's gonna be the third recommendation, to validate your anger and your frustration, isn't valid. But I just feel as though that if you really want to improve yourself, you will acknowledge it. And like I said, that's the third recommendation. Don't feel bad about having to cuss certain people out or go off on them, because sometimes people do go out their way to see you struggle and to see you suffer and to provoke you and harass you. Like, I've dealt with people who were extremely, like I said, narcissistic and just extremely evil and just mortifying as people, to where they would do certain things and they did want a reaction. And a lot of times I wasn't reacting and responding or speaking negatively or sabotaging myself because I wanted to, but simply just because it was like, if I'm minding my business, and I'm not somebody who's quick to anger, which I'm not somebody who's quick to be defensive. I'm not somebody who's quick to like feel the need to like defend myself, and you go out your way to bother me, I have every right to speak up on certain things. But I've realized how I go about addressing certain things is way more important. Like, I don't have to be so quick to yell at people or curse people or pull them out or I don't want that. That's not who I am as a person. And I've realized that like, you will pick up on habits and pick up on behaviors from other people if you don't realize that about yourself. And this is why in my last video I talked about why it's so important to build a relationship with yourself, because it's like, people will try. Like, there are some people in this world who will try to insert themselves. There are some people, because they don't have the energy for themselves. Like, what people lack in themselves sometimes, unfortunately, they try to do it to you, whether it's intentional, like it's subconsciously, or they just do it because that's all they know. But a lot of times the people around me, they were aware. They didn't care. And what you do in life, it comes with consequences. So it's just like, for me, when I went through, like I said, certain chapters and certain trials and tribulations, I was able to realize like, okay, the only reason why I would even have some of these thoughts or some of these emotions was simply because of the company I kept, the people that were around me. And that's why it's so important to, instead of blaming everybody else about what they did, to point the finger back on me and realize, you know what, how did I learn to talk to myself, how I learned to respect myself, how I learned to do certain things. I wouldn't even acknowledge none of these people, and I don't, and I haven't, and I've continued to work on that throughout the years of my life, and you will too. So the fourth recommendation is just knowing that as you're learning to be nicer to yourself, as you're learning to be gentler to yourself, and you're being compassionate, that you're not surrounding yourself with people who make you get out of character. You have to stop surrounding yourself with people who are okay with talking down to you, talking badly about you, who don't pour into you, who don't have anything positive to say. If they're not loving, if they're not respectful, if they don't uplift you, if they don't give you compliments, and it's not from a place of control, it's not out of a place of competition, it's not out of a place of superiority, you don't need nothing to do with them. Because it's not hard to speak positively about yourself or others. Like, it's not hard to give compliments. That's why people are envious and are jealous and just very insecure, because they don't speak positively of themselves. You wouldn't be insecure, you wouldn't be hating, you wouldn't be trying to hurt and harm people if you had love and respect for yourself. So lastly, I want you to create 3 to 5 affirmations in the comment section and on your notes that you could reassure yourself with, that you know is true about yourself or something that you want to work on, so therefore you can continue to not have these negative thoughts. It's so important that you constantly reassure yourself and you practice what you preach. If you know you're this, you're that, say it, own up to it. Nobody's going to be offended other than people who are dishonest with themselves, and that's not your job. So whatever questions, whatever concerns that you have, make sure you like, comment, share down below, as well as follow me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below. And if you're interested in a more one-on-one vibe, click my website where it's in the description down below. I keep feeling like I've been saying description down below like 20 trillion times. But anyways, I love you. You're loved. You're not alone. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.